Good morning and welcome to the January 26, 2022 Strategic Planning, Information Technology and Transportation Committee meeting. Time is 7:31. I will call this meeting to order. I need approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, first item on our agenda is the strategic plan update with Michelle Morris.
The minutes.
Actually, I'm sorry, we have the minutes to approve. I need approval of the minutes from the October.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is now the strategic plan update with Michelle Morris.
Good morning, everyone. We just wanted to update you that our current strategic plan concludes at the end of 2022. So staff has begun working on strategic plan 2028. We are not recommending a consultant be hired at this time, and staff's going to be developing the plan internally with stakeholder input. Over the next 6 to 8 months, our plan is to gather feedback from a variety of stakeholder groups, including those that are already in place, the superintendent's principal advisory, teacher advisory, parent advisory, student advisory. We're going to add a business and community focus group, and then we'll get feedback from the board through SPTT. Once that feedback is gathered, we'll consolidate and develop a draft and bring it back to this committee for your review. So that's the plan. I just wanted to let you know that we are already beginning working on the next strategic plan. Is there any questions?
Are we keeping kind of like 5 focus areas or trying to, or?
We're going to try and keep the same themes. We're going to look to see if those are still relevant and make sure. Our first actual stakeholder feedback group is this student advisory committee today. So we're going to try and align it somewhat with the State Board of Education strategic plan and use our themes and try and consolidate all of that.
Okay. Is there any more questions about that?
I'd just like to say I'd like to commend Dr. Houlihan, Ms. Morris, and staff for taking this on ourselves and not having the full consultant in again, and really learning from the experience that we did the last time. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we have a good template we can work off of.
Absolutely.
All right. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the calendars for the 2022 academic year. And that's with Dr. Bashan Harris.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Dr. Harris. How are you?
Morning. Good morning. Good morning.
All right. So I am here to present the proposed calendars for the 2022-2023 school year. I would like to go over the process with everybody today and then hear the results of that process. So as we started, all schools were given the statutory requirements that govern this process. So all the rules that the state require us to follow to produce this calendar. Every single school in Union County Public Schools met with their site-based leadership team. So that includes our parents, students, teachers, and administrators. 100% of all schools participated in this process. That's very important. Next, what we did was we got district personnel, which included our principal of the year and teacher of the year. We got together, and based on what was given to us by the schools, we developed a draft calendar. That calendar was then sent out to the community. And on the next page, the results of that, 70% of the community wanted calendar A. All right. And I provided the example of calendar A on the next slide. And that's going to be our traditional calendar for the upcoming school year. I've also included early college as well as Wolf School. And again, that had input from community members, parents, teachers, and administration. After we go through this process, I would like to present this to the board, the full board, for approval.
Okay. Was there a calendar committee this year? Or
We did a little different.
A little
So
different,
each
okay.
school had their individual site-based teams, and they met and then submitted the information to us as a
Okay.
district.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
I have a question. One of my pet peeves as a parent are the teacher workdays that are optional or required in the middle of the week rather than on a Monday or a Friday. Now, I'll take my parent hat off and ask you if there, for instance, in October, we have a required teacher workday on the 5th, on a Wednesday. Is there a particular reason why that couldn't be on the 3rd or the 7th?
So what we do generally is when we develop those proposed calendars, there were 3 of them. And this was the one that was picked by community members, by teachers, by students. This is the one that came out from that proposal. So we do, if you look at the rest of them, we try to put them on the ends of most of them of the days of the week. But this one, I believe this is also a Jewish holiday.
On the 5th?
I believe so. I'm not sure if I don't have the name of that right now, but I believe that is one of them.
And that's October 5th. Is there a particular reason for the optional teacher workday on the 8th of November rather than the 10th, which would be the day before a holiday? That you're aware of?
No, sir. So that comes with the proposal. So we had different draft proposals, and this is the one that was selected. The other ones had them at different times of the month, but this is the one that was selected for this one.
I don't have a problem approving this or voting for this with the proviso, if you would check on the reasoning behind those 2 particular dates, why they couldn't be shifted, and this be addressed. I assume this is going to go on the agenda for the board meeting next week?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just Googled October 5th. It's actually listed as World Teachers Day.
It's also Yom Kippur, which is a Jewish holiday.
Okay. All right. That's certainly understandable. So if you could check, Dr. Harrison, the reasoning behind the 8th of November to be a optional workday rather than the 10th, the day before a holiday. I will most likely ask for this to be pulled off consent, or if you could communicate that to me prior to the meeting, and there's a good reason, like the October date, then I'll be glad to agree to leave it on consent.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Does that sound like a plan?
100%.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve, to recommend approval to the full board. Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 to send to the full board at our next board meeting. All right. Thank you, Dr. Harris. All right. Next item on our agenda is the transportation update with Colin Moore.
I think Brian Jordan is going to handle that for us today.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Jordan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you all?
Good.
So I want to give you guys some updates. We'll start with the staffing update. Currently, we have 219 buses that are routed, and we have 10 vacancies. So since we have announced our increase on the salary that the board voted on, we have hired 22 drivers and 12 trainees since that time. Currently, we have 1 licensed driver in the pipeline to be hired, working through the HR process. And we have 5 trainees that are hired and working their way through various steps of the DMV process, whether it be waiting on the class, retesting for behind the wheel, or retesting the written portion of the class. And we have 2 trainees that are pending HR approval. So And to date, since 9/7, when the increase was announced, we have lost 13 drivers and 5 trainees for various reasons, whether it be retirement or, just different reasons. Also want to give you guys a van update. As you know, we've purchased 8 total vans. 2 of those vans are wheelchair accessible vans. And to date, we have put 3 of those on the road. By doing that, we have freed up 2 buses. We're able to cut 2 buses out of the fleet. And the third van removed 4 of our buses from going to Charlotte for McKinney-Vento students. Okay. Our fuel pre-buy. So if you recall, last year we pre-bought a little over 422,000 gallons of fuel from last year's budget. We paid $2.36 a gallon approximately. For this year, we have pulled 149,627 gallons out of that pre-buy. The only time we pull out a pre-buy is if the rack rate is more than $2.36 a gallon, or if fuel is hard to come by. So we've saved approximately $17,000 this year by pulling from the pre-buy, and we've saved from our budget $353,964 from doing the pre-buy. So it's not used from this year's budget. Okay.
Excellent.
So this spring, we will be receiving 5 propane buses. Those were part of the Volkswagen settlement grant. If you all recall, Volkswagen was involved in they violated emission standards. So the state received money from that. So we were granted 5 of those. They're scheduled to be built next month, and we hope to take receipt of those early spring.
How does that work? Is it just like they offer them up and we take them? Or?
Yeah, they kind of allotted us. They allotted us how many each area would get.
Okay. It's one of those things they just kind of,
Yeah, they
here's
told us,
5.
yeah, here's 5.
Okay.
Do we?
Can I ask you that artistically?
I'm sorry.
I'll take
Would we reduce our existing fleet by the 9, or do we just take the additional 9 on?
We would.
See if we're going to be able to generate any funds from the existing fleet.
So they will replace 5. So we'll park 5 that are up, that are due for.
And those are for pupil transportation, not activity or anything.
No,
like
those are yellow buses.
Yellow
for
buses. Okay.
To and from school. Yes.
Sorry,
Can I ask you
5?
5.
Buses, not 9, right?
5.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Gary, did you have a question?
Can I ask, are we going to incur an additional cost to be able to service, i.e. fill those propane buses? Do we have to build a propane tank station at the bus garage, or how is refueling handled?
So we're working through that with local vendors. We're looking at a few different options. They're struggling with staffing also on the propane trucks. So we are considering asking if they could possibly park a spare truck and we train our staff to fill those buses, and then they transport the truck back and forth to fill it. And there could be a possibility where they drop a tank at the lot. We're exploring those options right now, but the state funding would cover the actual propane costs.
When do you expect to have the first bus delivered, first propane bus?
They are being built next month. We're hoping into March, April, if all goes well.
Wow. Well, I want to commend the transportation team. I think only being down 10 drivers, I think that's a new low.
Yes, our staff has worked very hard, and we're very pleased, and we thank the board for all of your support in that.
And I have one more question about
Thank you.
the propane buses.
Mhm.
I guess depending on how the fuel truck or whatever goes, are we going to try to put those at one school? If it doesn't necessarily work out, maybe put a propane tank at the school, or how?
We're actually planning on housing all 5 of them at the bus garage.
At the bus,
That way it's
okay.
at one location,
Okay.
so we're not having to pull companies to go
yeah.
to different sites. So they'll
Okay.
all be housed at the bus garage on Goldmine.
Okay, perfect.
So this spring, we'll be evaluating our budget to see if a couple things, if we're able to purchase more extended stop arms. As you know, the end of last year, we purchased 30, and those have done really well for us. We've had a few incidents where they've been struck, but we've not had to replace any of them. They are able to be repaired easily on site. They just kind of shear off. So if funding's available, we'll purchase more of those. It helps our drivers to ensure they're following the proper procedures, looking before they open the door and display the sign there. And it's a safety concern. So we'll look at purchasing more of those if necessary. And we'll also look to see if a fuel pre-buy, depending on rates, if it's feasible to do another pre-buy, if money's available toward the end of this year. All right. One program that Mr. Denton and I are beginning to implement, we were scheduled to start it last Friday, but with weather, it's pushed back to start this Friday. It's called Talk Trash. And what it'll do, it'll allow a driver from each area on a Friday for approximately an hour to sign up with either him or I, and we'll go to the parking locations. And it'll give us that one-on-one time with the driver. We'll help clean up trash from the bus lot and just talk. It'll help address concerns they have, kind of build that relationship one-on-one and kind of see what's going on. And we want to make sure that they feel that they're being heard with any concerns they have. So we're looking forward to getting that program going for our folks. I wanted to give an update on the Smart School Bus Safety Pilot Program. If you guys are aware, in the budget, there was $1.65 million included for Union County Public Schools for the Smart Bus Safety Pilot Program. DPI is currently working through all of the criteria requirements that are going to be required to monitor that. And once complete, they'll provide a form where we'll opt in or opt out of that. There's certain criteria that has to be met from each vendor. And as they work through that process, we'll let you guys know how that's going. We're currently exploring, we've met with 3 vendors. And the 3 we met with were Bus Planner, Edgelog, and Tyler Technologies. I believe our finance system is using Tyler. So those are the only 3 vendors that are approved TIMS equivalent systems by the state. So those are the 3 that we're looking at. And we're still in talks with those vendors.
So I guess a little bit more background on that. That's kind of replacing the TIMS, or how's that work?
If we choose to go with it, it could replace the TIMS. It would
Okay.
replace, we currently use Edgelog from the state of North Carolina.
Mhm.
So Bus Planner has a TIMS equivalent system. They've been approved. I think they're in 1 or 2 counties now. Mount Airy, Tyler has been approved by DPI. Tyler's in Mount Airy, I'm sorry. Bus Planner is in Nash Rocky Mount. And then the state uses Edgelog.
Okay.
But there's different, they have to meet 10 different specs, whatever vendor we choose, if we choose to use that money,
Okay.
if we choose to accept that.
Okay. So I guess this is more like a kind of a pilot program to see what works best. Or-
Yeah, we're looking right now, we're doing a pilot program with Edgelog for the time and attendance GPS. They have a parent portal app. We want to make sure we're choosing what's best to serve our students and parents when we go through. So we're still in talks with neighboring districts who are using some of this system to see if it will work well for us,
Okay.
for our needs. And that concludes my updates. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you. It's again, I want to commend the team for reducing the driver vacancies.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. As far as any, I guess, GPS updates this year or cameras being replaced, how are we on that?
So all of our GPS units were replaced last summer. It's just part of the contract.
Yeah.
So they were all replaced. Our camera units, we had a lot installed last year, so all of our buses have cameras. Now, I do want to touch on the 5 propane buses. We requested 10 stop arm cameras from the state, so we were granted 4. So on those propane buses, the state is going to cover 4 camera systems with stop arms on those 4 of those
Okay.
5. So we'll have to, we'll
one.
probably pull one off of one of our buses that we park and move it to the 5th propane bus.
Okay.
So.
Does anybody else have any more questions? All right, hearing none, I will move on. Thank you, Mr. Joyner. All right, information to be taken to the full board. Only thing I have is a calendar set for our next board meeting. And our next meeting date is February 23rd at 7:30 a.m. here at the PDC. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor? Hang up.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, good, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.